September 3rd, mark your calendar. That's when the Epstein cover-up could finally shatter. I got a text message late last night from Christina Tobin of the Free and Equal Foundation, and she revealed to me that survivors who've never spoken publicly are coming to Capitol Hill. They're naming names. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell just got transferred to Club Fed with work release privileges. Coincidence? Well, sources say she gave the DOJ information on 100 people connected to Epstein's network, and she's held nothing back. She didn't invoke privilege. The woman who knows where all the bodies are buried is talking. Hollywood elites, Wall Street titans, political power brokers, they are all sweating. A federal judge has blocked unsealing her grand jury testimony, but Congress has subpoena power. The walls are closing in on the sickest secret in America, so don't look away. And as these dark secrets surface, protecting your health becomes more critical than ever. As we age, collagen production declines, causing wrinkles, sagging skin, and visible aging. By 40, levels drop significantly. That's why I use Ageless Multi-Collagen, 5 types of collagen from 4 premium sources, and hydrolyzed peptides for maximum absorption, no clumping, odor, or bad taste like typical supplements. Plus, every order donates a meal to hungry children through NoKidHungry.org. It's non-GMO. It's free from additives, gluten, antibiotics, and hormones. Get 51% off at healthwithgary.com with free shipping and a 60-day guarantee. Visit healthwithgary.com today. So big news out of Capitol Hill, thanks to Christina Tobin at the Free and Equal Foundation, whom I had the pleasure of reuniting with at the Ron Paul birthday party over the weekend, his 90th birthday. She sent me a message, and I looked into it, and it's all over the news now. Bipartisan lawmakers Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna will host a September 3rd Capitol event with Epstein survivors calling for the full release of the Epstein files and pushing a transparency bill. This is huge news. Everybody is talking about it now. Massie and Khanna bring Epstein survivors to the Capitol. On September 3rd, 10:30 a.m., several survivors of Epstein will speak publicly for first time at a conference held in Washington, D.C. by GOP Rep. Massie and Democrat Rep. Khanna. If it will help survivors by talking about Epstein, Maxine, and others will be involved, we should listen. And we're learning this. Ghislaine Maxwell been transferred from a Florida prison to a lower security facility in Texas to continue serving her 20-year sentence for helping the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein abuse underage girls. That's according to the U.S. Bureau of Prisons. We've got this here. Let's see if we can find this. Let's check out Reuters.
Todd Blanche. Ghislaine Maxwell, former associate of late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, has been transferred to a lower security facility in Texas to continue serving her 20-year sentence, the U.S. Bureau of Prisons said. Maxwell's move from a low-security prison in Florida to the federal prison camp in Bryan, Texas, comes a week after she met with Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche. Blanche said he wanted to speak with her about anyone else who may have been involved in Epstein's crimes. Maxwell's lawyer, David Marcus, confirmed she was moved but said he had no other comment. Maxwell was found guilty in 2021 of recruiting and grooming girls for Epstein to abuse. She had pleaded not guilty and is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn her conviction. Her meeting with the Deputy Attorney General came as President Donald Trump faces pressure to release more information from the Justice Department's investigations of Maxwell and Epstein. When asked during a White House interview with right-wing publisher Newsmax on Friday about the possibility of pardoning Maxwell, Trump said, quote, "I'm allowed to do it, but nobody's asked me to do it." The DOJ is seeking court approval to release transcripts of law enforcement officers' testimonies before the grand juries that indicted Maxwell and Epstein, which are usually kept secret. 2 federal judges are weighing in on the requests. Lawyers for Maxwell, Epstein, and their alleged victims are due to share their positions on the potential unsealing with the judges and filings on Tuesday. Epstein died by suicide in a Manhattan jail cell in...
Okay, so we got this from the press briefing earlier today. Our cameras were there to capture the moment when the White House was asked about the judge refusing to unseal the Maxwell grand jury transcripts.
That the grand jury and Ghislaine Maxwell. Another question on something that happened yesterday, but I wanted to get the White House response. A judge ruled that the grand jury transcripts in Ghislaine Maxwell's case should not be released. What's the White House response to that? And do you plan to appeal? And what do you want that information released?
We think that decision is unfortunate. Of course, we moved to unseal that information because the president has said he wants to see credible evidence released. As for the appeal process, I would defer you to the Department of Justice for that.
And that is what everybody wants to know. Will the White House appeal that decision? We have yet to receive an answer on that. Inmates at Ghislaine Maxwell's new prison are disgusted that she got transferred to the minimum security Club Fed lockup. New York Post reports Ghislaine Maxwell told DOJ Trump never did anything concerning around her. And 24 hours ago, a federal judge called out Trump's Epstein cover-up. Call to activism says major breaking. Trump would rather you focus on his bizarre press conference to hide this whopper. That a federal judge rejected unsealing the Ghislaine Maxwell jury materials and called BS on Trump's DOJ. Okay, well, we just got the White House response to see how the folks over at MSNBC are spinning this.
Break this down. Breaking news just moments ago, a federal judge denying the Justice Department's bid to unseal grand jury records from the criminal case against Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's accomplice, noting in part that the materials do not identify anyone other than Epstein or Maxwell who had sexual contact with a minor. And joining us now for more on this is MSNBC's Ken Delanian and former federal prosecutor Barrett Berger. So, Ken, break this down for us. What are we hearing from this judge?
This was a resounding ruling on a totally repudiating the Justice Department's request to unseal these transcripts, really saying that there are no special circumstances here and it's not in the public interest to violate grand jury secrecy by throwing this stuff out to the public, in part because the judge said these materials would reveal nothing new. They're basically a summary of things that are already in the public record from the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell. I'll just read from one of the passages here. A member of the public familiar with the Maxwell trial record, the judge wrote, who reviewed these grand jury materials would learn next to nothing new. He said they do not reveal new venues at which their crimes occurred. They do not reveal new sources of their wealth. He's talking about Epstein and Maxwell. They do not explore the circumstances of Epstein's death, and they do not reveal the path of the government investigation. He further said there's no client list in here. There, as you said, there's no allegation that anyone else had sexual contact with minors. And he is saying that really the only decent legal argument to release these transcripts, this was remarkable, is that it would show that the Justice Department's argument for doing so was totally disingenuous and may have been more about distraction than transparency. Those are the words of a federal judge, Anna.
Well, I think regardless, let us be the judge. Yeah? Can we just see what it says and be the judge? I don't need them telling me what to think. Okay, so we got that. The White House saying it's unfortunate. We're finding out this a couple days ago. Virginia Giuffre, rest in peace, and Ghislaine Maxwell's claimed Trump is innocent. Read this and share it. This is not going to work out the way the left thinks it will. We're looking at a official transcript. You can see here. Jeffrey told me Donald Trump's a good friend of his. That's the, let's see, let me back it up. What is your basis for your statement that Donald Trump is a good friend of Jeffrey's? Jeffrey told me Donald Trump is a good friend of his. But you never observed them together? No, not that I can actually remember. Not off the top of my head, no. When did Donald Trump flirt with you? Well, he didn't. That is inaccurate. Did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey's home? No, not that I can remember. On his island? No, not that I can remember. In New Mexico? No, not that I can remember. In New York? Not that I can remember. All right, if you could turn to the second page and read through those, let me know if there's any other, or if anything's inaccurate. So this is the testimony of the late Virginia Giuffre, who had relations with a certain prince of England. Ghislaine Maxwell told DOJ Trump never did anything concerning around her. Everyone talking about this now. Thomas Massie joining survivors of Epstein September 3rd. Mark your calendars. Ed Krasenstein. The Trump administration is now giving Ghislaine Maxwell permission to leave her low-security prison for work assignments. According to Mueller, she wrote, if true, it's disgusting. Was this in exchange for her favorable testimony? Probably so. Here's her level and custody. Base 7, custody plus, variance 8, security, SEC total, scored low, minimum security, level and custody summary. They write here, what stands out here is the custody level is out, which allows her to leave the minimum security campus for work assignments, much like Jeffrey Epstein was allowed to leave prison as part of the sweetheart deal he got from Alex Acosta that was penned by Alan Dershowitz. So she will be out and about on work assignments. She better watch her back. Did you know Ghislaine Maxwell's sister, Isabel Maxwell, just happens to be a member of the World Economic Forum? Oh, yes, it's a big club, and you're not in it. Isabel Maxwell, the president of the Blue World Alliance at the World Economic Forum. Ghislaine's most loyal supporter, how Fireball Isabel Maxwell, 71, who learned not to run from bad times after losing her internet fortune, is standing by her younger sister during the sex trafficking trial. And what do we have here? Now, this is back from July, but it bears repeating. She gave the DOJ information about 100 different people.
And Chief Legal Affairs Ghislaine Maxwell told them yesterday and today. Her lawyer says she answered questions about roughly 100 people during her meetings with Deputy Attorney General and former personal attorney to President Trump, Todd Blanche. CNN Chief Legal Affairs correspondent Paula Reed is with us on this. She is tracking all of the details. Do we know anything else about what they discussed, Paula?
Well, we're learning a little bit, but there's still more questions than answers. We know the two sides met today for about 3 hours. After talking through the day yesterday, once again, her lawyer said she answered every question that she was asked. She did not invoke privilege. And when really pressed on exactly what she's being asked about, her lawyer said that they've asked about every single possible thing you can imagine, but then revealed that she was asked about maybe 100 different people. She answered questions about everybody and did not hold anything back. I think that's sort of the biggest headline we've gotten out of these meetings so far.
Ghislaine Maxwell told them yesterday.
Well, if she did reveal all those names and she got moved to a minimum security prison with work release, clearly that sounds like it was the negotiation. Not the partner commutation that many have considered would happen. September 3rd, though. Mark your calendars, folks. Okay, let's check in with this guy, what Ghislaine told the DOJ. And then we got this. Actually, let's go to Dinesh D'Souza first. Let's hear what he has to say. Dives into her background and what the media still is not telling you.
Examples of how, at least from what we've seen, Ghislaine Maxwell, she comes of age in a very sordid environment in England. She's very well connected. She's got her dad is
she's a billionaire.
Her dad is a billionaire. So all the doors are open to her. But we also saw examples of how people were at parties she organized, and they would say, I remember this quite clearly, we had to leave the party. Things were getting way out of hand.
There was a couple of documentaries where we saw that.
So then Ghislaine Maxwell comes on bad luck because her family fortune is lost. She comes to New York. She connects with Epstein.
Yeah.
But the point is, she's not just Epstein's pawn. In fact, Epstein, to some degree, relies on Ghislaine, who has the global... think of it. Who brought Prince Andrew into this? Most likely, it's Ghislaine.
Yeah.
With her British connections, not Epstein. At least from what we've seen.
Okay, let's check in with that one clip we've got saved for you here. Check this out.
Before she took her own life, I think now we know why the Biden administration never bothered to send even a single attorney to sit down and talk to Ghislaine Maxwell while she was starting to serve out her 20-year prison sentence. It's because they didn't want to hear what she had to say. But the Trump administration did. So they sent Todd Blanche, the second in charge at the Department of Justice, and he sat down with her for 9 hours. Do you want to hear one of the things that she told him? And I can tell you right now that the leftist propagandists and all the bot accounts that are still using their broken scripts are not going to like this. But Ghislaine Maxwell told the Department of Justice that Trump never did anything concerning when she was around. And you know what that lines up with? That also lines up with some of the comments that Virginia Giuffre not only made in her deposition, but said quite publicly. In case you didn't know this, one of the primary and most vocal of all the Epstein accusers, Virginia Giuffre, whose testimony I read in the deposition and a couple of videos just the other day, who went by Virginia Roberts at the time, before she took her own life, she had a very public social media profile. And she used to post things like this all the time. Where have I ever said that? Prove to me that I've ever said Trump was involved. In fact, quite the opposite. And here's another tweet of hers in which you can tell that she's actually a Trump supporter. Yeah, when she refers to him as hopefully our next president. But what has them most terrified is that while she sat down with Todd Blanche for 9 hours, he asked her questions about over 100 people, and she answered all of them, honestly. And that has them very worried.
This story is not over yet. Don't go anywhere. Here we have Lisa Rubin says Ghislaine Maxwell doesn't have the right to refuse a congressional subpoena, but invoke the fifth. In fact, she did sing like a bird. Here we have Sununu mocking Trump's Epstein Island denial. Remember when he did that when he was overseas?
Rejects her, and I think they will.
So Governor Sununu, Ghislaine Maxwell was basically Jeffrey Epstein's groomer for years, bringing him young women, and she was convicted and sent away for 20 years. Is this a case President Trump wants to pick up?
No. And I don't think the Supreme Court wants to touch it. I think it's just an absolute fireball. I love how he's like, and I was never at the island. I could have gone to the island.
Never had the privilege.
Go to the island.
Never had the privilege.
It's like the rest of us saying, I could have gone to McDonald's, but I went home and I ate a salad instead. So look, this is what I think is ultimately going to happen is there's a deal to be made. She is, as Dershowitz said, she's the Rosetta Stone. She has all the information. She's very carefully. She hasn't written a book. She hasn't done any of that. She's holding it all for that deal once the Supreme Court rejects her. And I think they will. I think it's just too much of a political handle. The deal is give me a reduced sentence. She's not going to get a pardon. I mean, Trump pardoning her would be like worse than Biden pardoning Hunter Biden, right? I mean, it would be really,
but really commuting a sentence for a child sex trafficker?
If it means getting more information, I don't know if the sentence is commuted. Maybe it's reduced. The opportunity for her to get out at some point, write her story, make millions, because believe me, if and when she ever gets out, she's making millions on this story one way or the other. Trump needs this Epstein thing to go away, and it's not going away unless somebody gives up the goods, and she's the only one.
Jamal Simmons.
And now we're going to find out very soon what those Epstein survivors have to say. If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. The Epstein Network's day of reckoning approaches. Maxwell's singing like a bird, 100 names delivered to the DOJ. She's getting work release privileges while inmates at her new club-fed prison are disgusted. But here's what matters. September 3rd, survivors are going to speak at the Capitol. Real victims, real testimony, real consequences. Representative Massey and Khanna hosting means bipartisan pressure. Maxwell told investigators Trump did nothing wrong around her, but the media buried that detail. Her sister's a World Economic Forum member. It's all connected. And the federal judge blocking grand jury materials while the White House demands transparency tells you the cover-up continues. But survivors speaking publicly changes everything. So here's a question. Should Maxwell get a plea deal if she exposes every Hollywood predator and politician involved? Drop a yes or no in the comments. Because justice delayed for those victims has been justice denied for too long. And while you are here, tap shop.nextnewsnetwork.com and support real journalism, where you can trigger a liberal today.